G'day and welcome to another video. In today's lesson we're going to learn how to make this easy ribbed hat. You're not going to believe how easy this is. There is no increasing or decreasing in this hat. So it's great for a beginner. Can be used in a variety of yarns. I've used a DK or a 8-ply yarn. I've used Red Heart in this project. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to Red Heart for supplying the yarn for this video. This hat can be made as a slouchy, but it could also be used to make a normal beanie style hat. There's also a free written pattern for this project. I will put the link that you need in the description box for the written pattern. If you'd like to get this yarn and also free written patterns, check out redheart.com. You can find a lot of yarn, especially this really pretty colour that we have used in this video tutorial. So let's get started on the lesson. For our supplies, we're going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle with a large eye, a crochet hook to go with your yarn. This yarn recommends a 5mm crochet hook, but I will be using a 4.5mm because I can't find my 5mm. But I have loose tension, so that's really not going to matter. That's probably going to work out to the size recommended for the yarn. I've also got a head size chart. It's just one page and you can print this out on my website. This is helpful if you don't know different sizes for different people. So someone may have asked you to make a hat for a 3-year-old and you can go to the 3 to 10-year-old measurements and work it out from there. So it's great for that. So print that off, or I'm going to put the link that you need in the description box for that one. I've actually got this printed off and it sits beside me at the camera because it's really helpful information for when I need to make hats. So the yarn that we're going to use in this video is Red Heart Soft Baby Steps, and I've never used this yarn before. I've definitely used the Red Heart brands, but I've never used this range of yarn. So it's 165 meters or 180 yards, 100% acrylic, and it recommends a 5mm crochet. Okay, it recommends a 5.5mm there. Where was that picture I just saw? I think there might be an error in their printing. So a 5mm knitting needle, it says around this side. That's interesting. And a 5.5mm crochet hook. Like I said, I'm going to be using the 4.5 because that is all I can find at the moment. I'm just having a look at the yarn. It's not very thick, so yeah, a 4.5 would be fine for this. Where is the category number? Okay, we don't have one. Normally the Red Heart yarn has a category number, but this is probably in Australia, I would say that's just a little bit of a thick 8-ply, but you could definitely use an 8-ply or a worsted weight for this pattern. This hat pattern is going to work with any yarn that you have, and you're just going to use the crochet hook that is recommended by your yarn label. So yeah, I'm so excited about this. It's nice and soft. So let's see if we can find the middle. And we found the middle and we have yarn vomit. So let's get this organised and start the pattern. We will also need a tape measure, and it's optional to have 2 stitch markers. You could use 2 scrap pieces of yarn as well. And if you're a beginner crochet or you haven't been crocheting for very long, 6 months to a year, I would probably recommend using stitch markers. But if you're been at it a while like me, you're probably not going to need them. But they are handy to remind you to change the stitch, because we are going to change stitch. And if you forget, it's going to throw the pattern out. So we've got those. So we want to grab our yarn. I'm just putting my bits and pieces aside. Grab our yarn. And we're going to start with a slip knot. You can do this any way you like. And we want to make a chain as long as the height measurement on our pattern. So I am going to make my hat to fit 3 to 10-year-old pattern, So our hat height is 8.5 inches. So let's just grab our tape measure and let's see how much that is in centimetres. So it's approximately 22 centimetres for the hat height. So you want to make a chain that is the length of your hat height. So go and pick your size that you're going to make, look at the hat height and make a chain that is as long as that height. You don't need to count your chains. I mean, you can if you want to, but it's not important for this project, which is really good. And that's how this pattern can be adjusted to make different sizes and also different thicknesses of yarn and crochet hook sizes. So I'm going to go do this off camera and we'll come back and we'll be ready to start row 1. I have finished my chain and is at approximately 8.5 inches. It's approximately 8.5 inches long, or 22 centimetres. And just in case you're wondering, I have 37 chains. What we need to do is we are going to single crochet in the first 5 stitches. If you want your band, so this first part is going to be the band that goes around sort of around your forehead area of your hat, the opening of your hat. This is going to be the band, so if you want to have it wider, then do more single crochets. And then we're going to change to a half double crochet stitch. And when we get to the end, we're going to do 5 single crochets again. And this is going to be the top of the hat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to use this stitch marker just to remind me to do that at the end because I may forget. So basically each end is the same. You're going to have single crochet at this end and single crochet at this end and some half double crochet in the middle. Now if you've seen my other crochet hat that I made like this, it was an orange version. For the life of me, I cannot remember what that video was called. I'll put the name across the screen and also put the link for you in the description box. That used the double crochet stitch in the middle and it was slightly different on the edges, I think. It didn't use single crochet on the band. So if you want a different version or want to have a look, then I'll put the link for you. You can also click on more info. Just up here, a little information thing will come up and I'll put that in there for you. That's another way to find it. So to start off with, we're going to start with single crochet and we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the crochet hook. We never include the one that's on our crochet hook. So 1, 2, we're going to single crochet in there. And we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Because we've already done 1 and we need 5 in total. Again, if you want to change this number, you are most welcome to. But you just want to make sure that you continue with that number of stitches throughout the pattern. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And if you're using stitch markers, this is where you're going to grab your stitch marker and put it in the stitch that we just did. Because when we come back on the return row, we want to remember to change to the single crochet. So in the next lot of stitches, until we have 5 from the end, so up to here, we're going to work a half double crochet stitch. We're going to do this in every stitch across until we've got 5 from the end. I'm up to the stitch that I've marked, so that means I've got 5 chains left, so I'm going to take that out and I'm going to mark the stitch that I just did. Oh, got the shakes. Ugh. Don't know why, because I've had something to eat. Okay, so in the last 5 stitches we're going to work a single crochet. We're just going to do this all the way to the end. It's a little bit fiddly when you're just doing that chain. You almost feel like you've just started to learn how to crochet. So we're going to turn our work. So I'm going to chain 1, but I'm not going to count that as a stitch. That's just to get me to the height that I need to be. In the first 5 stitches, we are going to work in the back loop only. So turning your work towards you, you will see you have these V's working along the top there. You're going to go into the back V. So turning it towards you, you've got the front loop is at the front where my crochet hook is touching, and that is the back loop. And we're going to single crochet in there. And that's the very first stitch because the chain 1 didn't count as a stitch, it's just straight into that first one for a single crochet. We're going to do this into the next 4 stitches, working into the back loop only. That's 3, we should have 2 more. I just noticed that my yarn is matching my crochet hook. And I actually have a towel that you can never see in my videos. And look at the colour. I just lean on it so I don't slip off the desk. Oh, I don't know why I thought that was funny. Just picture myself slipping off the desk. So after that stitch we should have 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in that mark stitch that we have here, this is the very first half double crochet. Well, technically it's the last half double crochet of that previous row, but it's the first one that we need to do. So we're going to take this out. Into our half double crochets, we're going to work through the back loop as well. So see how we've got 2 loops at the top there, yarn over, because we're doing a half double crochet, go into the back loop, and then work your half double crochet. So in every stitch across, until we get to our next stitch marker, we're going to work half double crochet through the back loop only. Oh, and I've forgotten to tell you to put your stitch marker back. I'm so sorry about that, guys. So you're going to count 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the next stitch, which is just there, that's the very first front loop half double crochet. So you can just check that again to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have a half double crochet there. So sorry about that. So continue on doing half double crochet through the back loop, and I'll meet you when we're up to our stitch marker or 5 stitches from the end. When we get up to our marked stitch, which is my very next stitch, we're going to work a single crochet through the back loop only. So we're changing to single crochet. Grab your stitch marker. I'm going to use these stitch markers throughout the pattern because I will forget. I go off into my own little world and think about things, and then next minute you've done the wrong thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 4 stitches left, and it's going to be a single crochet through the back loops only. Chain 1. And remember, the chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, it's just to get us up to the right position. And we're going to do a single crochet in the back loop only. That first one's a little bit hard to find because it's kind of, for me, my yarn's getting in the way. But once we've got that first one done, it seems to be fine. So in the next 4 stitches, single crochet back loop only. I really like this yarn, it's lovely and soft. It's not splitting, so that's a bonus. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you're wondering how I'm counting the stitches, I'm actually counting the V's across the top. or the little loops, little bumps. So I'm counting bumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I try and count the stitches here, sometimes I get a bit messed up. So yeah, I just count along the top there. We are up to our marked stitch, and I'm going to take that out. And you want to make sure that you have 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next one, it's a half double crochet through the back loop only. So we're just repeating what we did on the previous row. So put our stitch marker back in. I think I actually put the stitch marker in the wrong one before, because you want 5 stitches. I haven't used this stitch marker for a while, and it's kind of different to use. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one is where we change to a half double crochet. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the pattern, and we just keep going until we have the project that we're making. So the width, which is across this way, the width is the head measurement that we need. And for the size I'm making, which is a 3 to 10-year-old, it's going to be between 19 and 20.5 inches. So yeah, depending on what size you want to make. So a 3-year-old, I'm going with the 19. But if you want to make it a bit older, so like a 5-year-old, I would say I would go 20 inches. And then if you want to do the big size, so the 10-year-old, I would go the full 20.5 inches. And I'm just reading this off. You can't see it to the side of me, but I'm just reading it off here. So I'm just going to continue with this row. So back loops only. I love the back loops. It gives you that lovely ridged look, and I really like it. Gives it a bit of texture, a bit of something different. So I'm just going to keep going because I'm basically near that stitch marker. So we're doing back loops only all the way to the stitch marker, and then we change back down to our single crochet. So it's an easy pattern, isn't it? So we've got stitch marker there, and I'm just going to double check to make sure it's 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so this next one is a half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I'm not even in camera, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just double checking. So single crochet now because we're at the end, and it's back loops only. So I'm going to put it in that single crochet there. Actually no, if I do put it in that last half double crochet, when I come back I know I've got to change. It doesn't matter, it's just to remind you what you've got to do. So just double check how many stitches you've got left. Yeah, do it that way. So chain 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I know the mark stitch is my next stitch. It doesn't hurt to just count. Like, I have literally been crocheting for 15 years. We're doing single crochet back loops only. I've been crocheting for 15 years and I still make mistakes. Yeah, I still make mistakes. Trust me when I say that. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because if I get a few rows in and go, oh no, there's a mistake, 3 rows back, I have to rip it out. So we're changing to half double crochet. And it's back loops only. So just repeat this for the remainder of the pattern until you get the width of the head measurement that you need. So the head measurement is a circumference, so it's about 19 inches for this size I'm making. I'm just going to make 3-year-old. Yeah, so you just keep going. And just quietly, I was making a cardigan yesterday, well, still am making the cardigan. And for me, so you can imagine how many stitches that has around. And I noticed a mistake 3 rows back because I didn't check it. So then I ripped it out, did it again, and guess what? I'd done another mistake 2 rows back. So I'd ripped out the first mistake, done the next row, made another mistake, kept going, and realised 2 rows later. I almost cried. But yeah. See, 15 years experience, still making mistakes, and you will still make mistakes. Oh, hello helicopter. You will still make mistakes. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take that out and change to back loop single crochet. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we have our width that we need. And for me, that is going to be 19 inches. We want to remember that crochet stretches. So you want to grab your piece, and off this side, I've got my measuring tape lined up to the edge of my crochet. And oh, you can't even see the other side of it. Let me zoom out. You want to remember that crochet stretches, so you can stretch out your crochet a little bit and then measure it against your measuring tape. If this is for a child, you could not stretch it out as much because the baby can grow into the hat, or the child can grow into the hat. But if it's for an adult, you do want to stretch it out a little bit because you don't want to make it too big after it's stretched. So you want to measure down the bottom here. This bit is a wider section because it's a taller stitch, but you want to measure the single crochet part. And I'm going to pull that out. And I get to my 19 inches, which is what I want for this size hat. So once you get to the size that you need, we're going to join this together so that it makes a hat. So at the moment you've just got a flat piece. And what we want to do is stop 1 row short of the length that we need. Because the last row we need to work through both loops. And the reason that it sounds odd, I know, but the reason that we do this is so that when we sew it together, it creates a fake rib. So the ribs at here, if we don't do another row, it's hard to explain. Can you see how there's 2 rows of half double crochet like there and there? When we sew it together and create a fake rib, one of our rows of half double crochet disappears. I just found that out because I just sewn this together and didn't look right. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to go a single crochet through both loops. So we're going to keep with our pattern into the next, we've got 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're going to work through both loops and do our half double crochet. So we're going through both loops. We've got 2 loops on the top. I just made a mistake before and I was actually going under those 2 loops. That's not right because the 2 loops are at the top there. That's better. So yeah, we're going to do this all the way across, working half double crochet through both loops. And when we get to the end, we're just going to work our 5 single crochets through both loops. So pause the video and I'll meet you there. Once we get to the end, we're going to cut off about, I would say 13-14 inches of yarn because we're going to sew up the side seam. So grabbing your project, you just want to pull the tail through that loop. We are going to sew it together, and what we want to do is look at our work. You're going to notice that the V's here, there's on one side they're going to be in the correct position, so it looks like a V, and if we flip it over to the back, you'll notice that the V's are upside down. and we want the upside down part facing out. So this is going to be, sorry, the V's with the, this is going to be the outside of our work, and that's going to be the inside of our work where the V's are upside down. But when we sew it together, we want the upside down V's facing out. So this is my upside down V's, you can see there, they're upside down. We're going to put the two ends together because we want this on the outside when we sew it together. When we get our bits that we're going to join together, we want the starting edge, so where we very first started our work, so that's this one here, we've got our tail still attached, the starting tail still there. We're going to be having this facing us. So this is going to be the bit that's closest to us, so closest to the camera is this part. And the other side here, this is where we finished off our last row, and you can tell because you've got the V's here, and that's the way the crochet goes. This is going to be at the back, so when we join it together, it'll be like that. So a starting row, so row 1 towards you, and then the one at the back here is going to be the last row that we crocheted, so that'll be at the back. So we're going to stitch it up sitting like that. And I actually made a mistake when I sewed it up just before, and it was completely wrong. So I've already finished this whole hat, sewed it on my ends, and realised it was wrong. So my yarn is not actually attached anymore because I had to undo it. What we're going to do is, through the chain of the starting row, that's where we're going to put our yarn. So you'll notice that I've got loops sticking up here. That's because I've already sewn it, but these are the starting chain. That's our starting chain. So these loops sticking up, that's where we're going to put our yarn. So we want to go through the first one here, try and go through sort of a couple of layers so that it's not going to pull up a big loop. And just on this first one, we're going to go under the 2 loops at the top, which is the V from the last row. So your yarn's still going to be attached, but you can see that mine's not. So I'm going to just leave it loose, and I can tie it to that strand there. And then it'll just stop it from pulling through. So and we're going to go through the starting chain, which is at the front. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. Let's get rid of that tail. The starting chain, which is on this side, which is closest to us, we're going to go through the loop that we have on our starting chain. When we go through the back layer, we're going to go on the outside loop. So looking at the loops on the top here, you've got the inside loop because that's closest to the inside, and then you've got this loop here which is closest to the outside of our work. So I'm going to go through that loop, which is just the starting chain loop, and through the outside loop. So the back loop, you could call it the back loop as well when you're looking at it. So we don't want to grab the first one that's closest to us, that's the inside loop. I'm going to grab that back one there and stitch through there. Hang on, my doesn't need to pull up my sleeves. This is serious business. And we're going to pull through our yarn. Don't pull through too tight, just make it snug. We're going to come back to the front one, go through our starting chain, and then grab the outside loop or the back loop of the piece at the back. And what this does, by missing one of the loops, it creates that fake ribbed look that we've got, but now we have to try and create it in our join. So through the front loop of the starting chain. If you've got 2 loops there, then you could probably just go through both, but I don't, I only have one. I'm going to go through the outside loop, so the loop closest to the back of the work, or the back loop, depends what you want to call it. We're just going to repeat this all the way up. After you've done an inch or two, turn it to the other side and just make sure that it's looking okay. It's not going to look exact because we aren't crocheting, we're stitching our work together, but I'm telling you, it does look very, very close to what it's supposed to look like. And when it's been worn, you won't notice where the seam is. We're just going to continue all the way across. And what you can do is just pinch the end there, and the yarn that we're using to sew it up, you just pull that and it'll cinch it all together if you've got like loose loops. So I'm going to continue on and I'll meet you at the end when we've sewn up this seam. When you get to the end, I've just sewn through 2 loops, or as many loops as I can, because I want that to be a nice secure join. And I can see some loose loops there, so let's give this a tug. Now I'm just going to say this now, just in case I forget to tell you in a minute. When we're sewing around the top, if you've got a yarn that breaks really easily, like if you pull that quite hard and it snaps, I would suggest using 2 strands of yarn to sew the top part up, because we are going to be tugging on our yarn. And if you've got one that breaks, it's not going to end well. So make sure you've pulled your stitches nice and snug. I'm going to flip this out so my seam is here. You can see it on this side. If you flip it out the other way, can you see where it is? It's actually here. But because we've got these loops here that we skipped, it's created this fake, oh, we're so awesome, created this fake rib. So in the top here, this is when we're going to gather up our work. I mean, you could leave it like that. Mine looks a little bit rough because I had to attack it with the scissors. Yeah, so don't pay any attention to this. That was me trying to find the right loop. You could use it as a cowl because it's, you know, opened at both ends. You could also use it as a headband if it wasn't so wide. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to gather the top and we're going to stitch around the top here with our needle, and we're going to pull it tight. So if your yarn is one that's going to snap, I would suggest finishing off this yarn and then attaching 2 pieces, or attach another piece, just so that you've got 2 yarns through your needle. And what we're going to do is so where's my yarn? My yarn is attached here, and I'm just going to put my needle anywhere in there, just in and out of the top edge of my work. There's no specific spot that I'm going, I'm just putting it in and out. And we're going to do this all the way around until we get back to where we started. So we're going to pull this. Try not to pull the yarn too much. Just, I can't think of a word. Scooch your stitches? I don't even know if scooch is a word. You're going to shift your stitches around so you can close this hole as small as you can get it. You are going to be left with a little hole. Something's tapping. Can't stand noises. It's like ticking, tapping. And I can hear something tapping. Alright, so we're just going to scoot this around. And we're going to pull. And this is where our yarn could snap. And if it does, I'll just have to redo it. What's this? Get out of the way. That loop there is where I buggered up when I was trying to do it before, but I didn't do it right. So get it as far as you can. I'm not going to go too hard because I'm thinking that yarn's going to snap. I'm just not in the mood to do it again. Because that'll be number 3. So we're just going to put it through the loop before we pull it shut, just to secure that off. And then we're going to just stitch this hole closed. And we're going to do it as good as we can. Mine's going to look really rough because I've pulled it apart so much. But we can see how we go. And then after you've done it a couple of times, just secure it off. And then keep going. So we're just going through the top layers, see that? And then we're just pulling it together. This is the inside of my hat, so I'm not worried that that's sticking up like that. And once you've got it enough, you can just put your hand on the inside, make sure you've closed up the hole. Yep. Good job. And we're just going to secure this off, so we're just going to pull it through and then just go through the loop. Do that 1 or 2 times. And then we're going to sew in our ends. Now I'm going to do that. You can probably just sew it through this top bit here. Anywhere in there, it doesn't matter because it's the same colour, it's not going to show. I put moisturiser on my hands before. Bad idea when you're using a needle because my hands are slippery. They look good for the video, but not good for practical for crochet. I'll sew that in after. So now we can turn it back the other way. Let's zoom out a bit. Getting a bit close there. So we've got our hat done, and now we just need to sew these ends in. That is so cute, and this yarn is so soft, it's really squishy. Now I wish I made it big enough to fit me. Alright, so let's have a look at our... So mine's a little bit odd because I pulled it around a bit when I was trying to unstitch it. But that there is our seam. How crazy is that? It does not even look like a seam, because it matches up with the V's. Rocking it. So please share your creation on Facebook, or you can tag me on Instagram. Love to see what you've been up to, and tag me with any project. You know, you've been following along with any of the videos we've got here. You can share them over on Facebook or tag me on Instagram. Also too, if you want to check out more videos, click on the more information card, which will be just in the top corner here. Something will pop up around there. Make sure you subscribe because we have crochet tutorials coming up all the time. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crochet. So you're back looping this one for a single crochet, and that should be 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. edit that back because I just went through the wrong stitch.